We do have two amazing speakers from AWS, Mr. Mani Chandrasekaran and Chandrasekaran Shivaraman. Glad to have you, sir, here. So Mani Chandrasekaran has over close to 29 years of experience in the US, and he is serving as principal technologist at AWS India, and has been working at AWS for around 8 years for now. He has been in customer success roles for vast variety of majority of his career roles into enterprise architecture, application modernization, and more recently around resilience, multi-cloud and generative AI as well. In his current role at AWS, Mr. Mani is working with customers in India and South Asia across different segments and industries. Prior to AWS, Mani has worked with companies like EMC, HP, Sun Microsystems, Razorfish, Honeywell, and many others. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here with us. Coming to Chandrasekaran Shivaraman, sir, is a senior solution architect, developer specialist with AWS India. In his current role with developer transformation in India, he helps customers to modernize applications and enable developers with next generation developer tools such as Amazon Q. So yesterday who all have been here would have been attended Amazon Q as well. So may I know who all had attended the session yesterday? Thank you. So looking forward to the session today as well. Thank you for all your presence here. Over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Supriya.
Thank you.
Can you switch on this? Thank you very much, Sukanya and Supriya. So, I think we were not sure about if it's going to be a repeat audience from yesterday, but I think looks like the vast majority of you are new to this talk, right? Is that correct? Yes? Okay, cool. So, we don't have to skip some slides, but of course, I think a couple of you are from yesterday, but I think we have made some of the changes to some of the demos and stuff like that, right? So let me get started. So primarily, I think a lot of you know, generative AI is taking the world by storm. So what I wanted to cover initially is a little bit of the use cases which a lot of our customers as well as Amazon people within our own company are using generative AI. And so I think basically this is both me and Chandra, we are practitioners. So whatever demos and guidance we give you will be applicable to the real world. And we also have some resources at the end where you can go back to your homes, offices or colleges and practice it, okay? So I'm not going to reintroduce myself. I think Supriya did a great job. Just want to, a disclaimer, even though our last name and my last name and first name are similar, we are not related to each other, and he's not my dad, okay? So, so I just want to make it clear. Of course, I'm much older than him, right? So, all right. So, let's get started. So what is generative AI, right? I think the most important thing is while this did not just crop up out of the blue, right? There's been a gradual progression, right? I think a lot of you, us included, have used machine learning for quite some time, right? I think a lot of you, must be customers of Amazon.com, our parent company, and you might have encountered machine learning to some extent, right? I think whenever you go to buy stuff, you will see these are things that you might like to buy and those kind of things. Those lists are actually, populated by, ML algorithms behind the scenes. But where generative AI is become really prevalent is in the generation of new content, right? I think whereas machine learning was, you train it on a base of a lot of older stuff and gives you recommendations and things like that. But generative AI, for anything new, I think that's really does a great job, primarily because of, because of the advances in a lot of compute, because of graphical processors that have come into play and things like that, right? So that said, right, I think there are a few aspects of generative AI. I'm not going to go into a lot of things, but whenever we talk about generative AI, the key thing here is behind the scenes, these are powered by what we call as large language models, and which are trained on lots of data, right? Whereas I think when you talk about, whenever we look at models, not all models are similar, right? Some models are what we call as text only kind of a thing. You give it some text question and it responds back in text. But increasing a lot of models are also multimodal in the sense that as input you could even give an image and it will probably describe the image, or you could even ask it to generate images. It can do it, and similarly it's expanding further into video and audio and stuff like that, right? And of course, there is, of course, within Generative AI, there are various flavors to it. Based on your own experience and what you want to use it for, you could either start at the very bottom or go at the top, right? I think today the example that we will share are primarily at the top, essentially applications that leverage large language models, okay? So when we use some of the services that we show you today, you might not even be aware that behind the scenes there is a large language model that is running there, right? But there is a place for both the other two also, right? I mean, within Amazon and AWS, we cater to all three layers. So for example, if you are a company where you want to create your own model, right? Or you want to use an open source model and then fine tune it and things like that, we have an option where we can give you raw compute. We have our own processors along with NVIDIA that we can do, or we also have what you call as a generative AI as a service, where you can pick and choose whatever model you want and then use it, right? And then on the top you have at a higher level different, so basically they all come under a family of services called Amazon Q, okay? And within Q we have something for business, developer, and then for others, right? So Q is a brand name, so if you want to use it for like basically coding and development purposes, we use something called Q Developer. And for businesses, like for example, if you want to use it for something like an HR kind of a use case, right? A lot of the times I think internally within HR or even IT for that matter, you will be having some common questions and things like that, right? So there is a popular pattern called RAG. So if you want to use RAG, you can use something called Amazon Q Business, right? So this is the complete portfolio from AWS. So based on where you are, whether if you're a pure play data scientist kind of a thing and just you're telling us like, give me the compute, we will do it. So then you can go at the very bottom. If you don't want to worry about hardware, you just need something like a serverless kind of a thing, we have Bedrock. In Bedrock, again, you get and choose whether you want to have a commercial model like Anthropic Cloud, or you want an open source model, you can use it. And then if you don't want to worry about anything, you just want an endpoint where you just want to use it, then you can use the Q family of products, right? So these are some popular use cases where generative AI plays very well. I think a lot of things, I think we have seen people using it quite a lot for things like summarization, translation is very good. Generation is of course the best whenever we use it. And then the output again is both text, images as well as code, right? So these are some common capabilities. Before I hand it off to Chandra, we also have a portal called AIExplorer.aws, right? So where we have published a lot of industry references, right? So when you go back and maybe you might be in different industries, you might be in retail, you might be in healthcare or whatever, right? You can go here and see what other industries are using generative AI for, right? And then maybe get inspired. A lot of these case studies also are very detailed enough in the sense they have reference architectures and things like that, which you can use, right? So of course, I mean, this is an example of, I mean, it's very realistic, right? This is an example of an image that is actually generated by this prompt, right? The prompt, if I want, I mean, people at the back might not be able to read it. We just gave a prompt as an IT professional. Of course, we didn't give the name. Attending Grace Hopper conference at Bangalore with a whole gathering of professionals, and this is what it gave us, right? I mean, it's like as good as, I mean, something which should have clicked from a real camera, right? I mean, you can see the power of this. I mean, in the sense that the power of just using prompts, you can generate very nice pictures, right? I mean, so basically what we want, my colleague Chandra will now do is basically take a kind of a persona kind of an approach and then share some use cases on how you can use generative AI for software development, right? So a couple of things. How many of you are software developers in the sense that you do coding day in and day out? A lot of you. Okay. Any managers here? Less? Okay, good. I mean, I would have been worried if there were more managers, but yes, I think it's a good proportion to have. And then, of course, anybody from who does QA or SRE kind of work? Very few. I think more power to you, ma'am. So that's also a kind of a thankless job, because I guess you get called in for a lot of tickets and stuff like that. So we'll also have something for you which can make your life easier, right? From a development perspective, what we have seen is over a period of years, the software development itself has evolved, right? We started doing development in assembly languages. I'm not sure how many of you have done it, but I've done it before. And then, of course, gradually we went in for object-oriented development, and then domain-driven design, and test-driven development, and so on and so forth, right? So, but what I'm trying to say is, people have evolved, but then the reality is, the code people have written like 10 years back, 15 years back still exists. So it's not that they've gone away, right? So I work with a few handful of customers who have been in existence for more than 20 years. So they have still code that has been written around 15 years back. Now, people who wrote those code would have, probably retired, right? Now, can generative AI help here? I think yes, we can. I think that's some of the demos that we show will show you how, right? So, one more interesting statistic here is, one of the things that we realize in day-to-day work is, what we have seen is, the amount of time people write coding, right? I think the vast majority of you who said you are doing software development, the amount of time that you're using to write code has become less and less, okay? And one study has found that it has almost become like an hour. I mean, it's just, if you're spending like 8 to 9 hours in an office, you're just spending 1 hour in writing actual new code, right? Now, that is probably not great statistics from the business point of view, probably because a lot of your business would want you to write new stuff, new features and things like that. Now, where do people spend the rest of their time, right? I mean, of course, not drinking coffee and tea, but then they're also using a lot of time to do these kind of things, right? Which is beyond just creating stuff. They're using it to maintaining stuff, testing things, operating, and then planning and stuff like that, right? So our goal from AWS is to make sure that that 1 hour that people are spending today, can we bump it up to more than 1 hour, right? At least 3-4 hours kind of a thing, so that you delegate a lot of the routine tasks to tools like Amazon Q, and you focus on creating new stuff, right? So with that, I hand off to my colleague Chandra for some interesting demos on how you can use Q for some of your day-to-day development.
Thanks, Mani. Can you hear me? Is it okay? So Mani and I, we have curated some of the demos based on what we come across in the field. Is it okay? Can you hear me at the last? No? Is it better now? No? Hello? Can you hear me now? Is it better? All right. So Mani and I have curated some of the demos based on what we see in the field, talking to people who are engineering leaders, architects, principal engineers, developers, all over the place. So based on that, we thought it would be good to talk about something which is already existing, because majority of the code is primarily on maintenance or enhancement rather than writing new stuff. So let's talk about these two personas. Let's say we have Ria. Ria is an engineering leader, and she's responsible for a portfolio of applications. And one of her objectives is to improve their code quality or application over a period of time. So let's see how generative AI can help to solve some of the challenges that Ria faces in daily life. So let's start with, all right. So let's say there is a simple code here. Just take a moment to observe this code. Okay, so this is a simple Java class with few methods in it, and then it does some work. This code runs and it produces an output. But given this code, and if somebody joins the team, want to understand the code, and they want to improve the quality of this code, what would they do? In today's world, without the generative AI piece, what we do is we leverage our conventional wisdom, our technical depth, and also look at things like how do I know refactoring and try to make changes to this code. So if you look at it, okay, there are these 4 different methods in this class, and some things that you observe is there are no comments, variable names are all not very meaningful. So if you do this through IDE, you try to use something like a refactor option available in the IDEs, and try to use something like, okay, I will try to use refactoring techniques to rewrite this. Now switch to the generative AI world, where you take this code and say, okay, use Amazon Q. There are multiple options to transform the code. So use an option just to refactor. Now this code is sent to an LLM behind Q. It takes this code, and if you look at it, it immediately identifies that whatever code that we had here is basically a merge sort implementation. So it takes that code, explains what this code does. It provides you recommendations for renaming the methods, renaming the variables, right? And then it also provides you a complete implementation and says, take this, you can run this. So whatever we had before, a code that had no comments, no documentation, no meaningful variables, it is taken, it is refined, and you get a code which has all these details. So one of the first things that we wanted to show you is, given a code, you will be able to improve the readability, maintainability of code through Amazon Q, right? So I just take this code, paste it over here, and then, of course, this is non-deterministic, right? You will not getting the same output every time, but what you get is an output that matches your need, and it runs fine, right? So it has all these different methods. If you look at the meaningful names there, it says this is the purpose, this is merge sort. I have an iterative way to merge them, split the arrays, connect them, etc. So that's the first piece that we'll start with. Now we'll move on to the next one. Let's say, okay, I'm able to understand the code, I'm able to refactor this code, right? Now, the other thing, probably we will take questions at the end. Is that fine? Yeah, thank you. So the second part is, when we are doing refactoring, refactoring is not something that is limited to your code. You may have an application, you have an architecture, you have design, you want to refactor it at different phases. And as part of that, you also have certain things like build methods. Now let's say in this scenario, somebody is using Ant as their existing build processes. I don't know how many of you still use Ant, but there are scenarios where we come across customers saying, we still use Ant and an older version of Java. So one of the questions are, we want to move away from Ant to use something like a Maven or Gradle. So this example that we will simply see is, there is a open source code or something that is available in GitHub. We took that, and then we start using Q to refactor that code and move from Ant to Maven. So as you see here, we have this Ant build file, which is in XML format. We take that, and then in the Q chat window, there is an option called /dev. The /dev is basically an agent that takes in the input from the user and then passes on to the large language model to derive the set of changes that you want to make. So sometimes it gives you the, let's say you have a scenario, you provide that input to /dev, it provides you the list of tasks that you need to do. In this scenario, we want to convert from Ant to Maven. We give the prompt. The more concise and clear the prompt is, you get a better output. So in this case, your pom.xml is changed, like the ant.build file is changed to pom.xml. And the other part that I want to show you is at the top, you see an option to make changes to the file and do a chat inline. So we call this as an inline chat capability. Apart from the chat option on the left side, you also have one on individual file level. So you can chat to Q specific to this file as context, and it helps you to generate your comments, and you can use that way. Now, if you go to this README, the old README had the steps for Ant and how do you build this through Ant. But after passing it to /dev, it transformed that README file so that you get a README file that is more specific to running this on Maven. So you get the set of commands there. Without any changes, we run the same set of commands, and we are able to compile this entire application and build them. So, as we said, refactoring at multiple stages. These are just two examples of what can be done, or the art of the possible.
I just also want to share is one of the side effects of using these tools is people are using them for a lot of unintended kind of, usage, right? So remember that I told you we had a few customers who are using code which have been written for a long time. So one of the popular use cases, Chandra, is some of them are using it to actually generate things like user guides and developer guides based on the code. I think for a lot of you who are maybe new to software development, or maybe you are students, one of the typical tasks which typical managers give, right, I think is to create documentation, right? So I think you can use Q here even for creating things like user guides and developer guides. As Chandra mentioned, the art is in the prompt, right? If you are as specific as you are in the prompt, you'll get a better thing, right? If you just ask it to, for example, create a user guide, it might have the concept of a user guide, whatever it knows, right? But if you're more explicit and say, can you give me a user guide which has an initial summary, and then you can have a sections around what libraries it uses, and maybe you can even have other sections. It will generate the user guide or a developer guide based on what you say, right? So the prompt is, I think, very important. That's one thing. And second point is we have given a lot of examples in Java. That's because me and Chandra are very comfortable in Java. But Q can work equally well if you develop in .NET or Python or JavaScript or whatever, right?
Thanks, Mani. So that gives a next segue to what we are going to see next. Let's look at our next person, Meenu. She is a principal engineer and is an architect responsible for the application development, architecture, secure coding practices. So imagine you are an architect and you have an existing application with less documentation at the whole application level. So we want to use Amazon Q to develop architecture diagrams. Can we take a code base and then try to generate things like a high-level application logical architecture diagram, or can we use it to generate a sequence diagram for a particular flow? So this particular demo is aimed at helping people to generate architecture diagrams. And for the purpose of this demo, we have used a particular utility called Mermaid. So we ask you, and if you look at it at the bottom, we are using a at workspace annotation. The at workspace annotation, it indexes the whole project or the workspace locally in the developer's machine, and then uses that information as context. So when you try to give some information, it runs the local indexing and search on your workspace and passes the appropriate context to Amazon Q. So in this case, if you look at it, I don't know, people at the last, you may not be able to see it, but probably once it scrolls up, you will be able to see the prompt that we are giving. So the prompt is, I'm a new developer trying to understand this project. Can you generate the deployment diagram and sequence diagram for this architecture in Mermaid format? So what basically Q is going, we are expecting Q to create a particular strip of code in what we call as this Mermaid format. And then we take this code and then paste it in this tool to generate the architecture artifacts. So let's copy the first portion, which is primarily the high-level view of the application, paste it in Mermaid, and then what you see is on the right side. You are able to take a code base and then generate a high-level architecture diagram. And again, this is a good start for you. Even if it does not give you 100% accuracy, this is something you can start with. Maybe it could be 60% or 80% based on the amount of code that you have. That's one part. The second part is, given the flow in the architecture, you will be able to promptly create a sequence diagram using Q Developer. So we started with understanding application code, looking at how do we add comments, how do we write meaningful code. We also looked at, second part is, how do we create architecture diagrams out of an existing code base. So now again, any development is incomplete without security. In the current scheme of things, what we do is we write code first to solve our functional problem. Once we do that, we test it. And then if you're following Agile, you have your own unit test cycles. You complete that, and then you pass it on to the pipeline, where your DevOps pipeline has a step that takes care of running security scan. Now, what if we can shift this entire security scan task itself to the edge of the developer, which means that if I am developing code, before I even merge my code and submit or submit a pull request, can I run the security scan on the code that I have, and then ensure that I have not introduced any vulnerabilities, and then pass it on to my build phase. So this is as Madi said, some of the examples that we had is on Java. Now we have something on Node.js just to ensure that we are able to cover majority of the developer persona. So this is a Node.js TypeScript-based application where we want to take this code and then run a security scan. And this security scan leverages Amazon Q and the LLMs behind it to provide you a common set of vulnerabilities that are identified in the code. That's number one. Along with identifying the vulnerabilities, it also provides you details on what exactly those vulnerabilities are. So you have an option to run your project scan. It scans the project, and then you see a whole set of recommendations over there. I'll give a moment. Yeah. Sorry for the people at the back. So at the bottom of the screen, you have a whole set of vulnerabilities that are identified in the code. So we'll go over and hover on some of those vulnerabilities and try to find out what those vulnerabilities are, and then take help from Q on understanding those vulnerabilities, and then look at how we remediate. Now, the security scan feature presently is available to support majority of the programming languages. In addition, it also helps you to remediate them for specific languages today. For example, if something is written in Java, in addition to identifying the vulnerabilities, Q can help you to remediate those vulnerabilities as well. So what you see here is, you select a particular thing, you see, okay, this is CWE 352, which is cross-site request forgery. And then you have the ability to view the details. And then you have a whole set of examples on what this vulnerability is. Now, it is not generic, meaning it doesn't just tell you what is CRF, right, cross-request forgery, but it provides you that definition or explanation in the context of the code that is given here. So it provides you the exact specification on where there is a problem and how do you start to remediate them, right? So that is on the security scanning feature. I'll pause here. Yeah. So moving on, after having things like, okay, you have a code, you are able to identify vulnerabilities, well and good. What if I am using things like infrastructure as code to provision my environment? Will you be able to identify security vulnerabilities from infrastructure as code constructs? So we'll take another example where we have a Terraform template that provisions some of the resources. Sorry for the lack of clarity and the color in this particular demo, but what it has is a Terraform set of files that provisions VPC and few other resources like security groups and other things. So let us take this particular Terraform project and run security scan on this project to look at if there are any specific vulnerabilities in the whole IAC construct in itself, and then use Q to identify them, understand them, and remediate them as well. So if you look at it, you have certain resources like, say, the route table association for your VPC. You have your set of security groups, ingress, egress, and also the CIDR ranges for your VPC. So we take that, and once we run this, we come across few vulnerabilities that are identified, which are part of this IAC construct. Say, for example, you are creating a S3 bucket. You don't want to make it available in public for anybody to access, right? Such kind of things can be identified from the security scan. Or similarly, an RDS. You are creating an RDS or a database in the cloud, and if it is open for public to access directly, you are having a security issue there. So you may have your own set of guardrails, and Q provides you that basic set of details on where your code is vulnerable from a IAC standpoint. So again, the same thing. You are able to see the problem, you are able to understand it, and then you have ability to figure out how to remediate the problem as such. Now, by doing this, what we are aiming to achieve is, instead of waiting for a security scan to happen after you have merged your code, we have shifted that to the developer's task. So as a developer, you can run this and make sure that whatever you are committing is free of vulnerabilities, right? So that is going to help you to market your product faster. Now, whatever we have seen so far is based on what is already trained on Q. So Q is trained based on Amazon's own code base and also the open source code base that is available. So it is curated, the models are trained based on that. So all these demos that you saw so far is based on what Q is already trained. Now, we have Meenu, right, or Ria. Ria wants to know, okay, we have our own code base, and we want you to generate code based on our own coding standards, our own security guardrails and guidelines. So can Q do that? So what we are going to do is, there is a feature in Q called Q code customizations. So we will train or use an organization's code base and put that in a S3 bucket or a set of these code libraries, and then create a new customization. And then what we will do is, if you look at it, there is an insert method here, which takes 4 different parameters, right? The title, year, plot, and rating. Now what I will show you is, I'll run this demo without customization first and show you what the output it provides. And then we'll go through to what customization does. So now if you look at this, so look at this method, it takes 4 parameters for insert. Now we'll go ahead and ask Q to generate a client for the insert method. So now let's say I want to add Titanic to the database. Now this code runs without customization. If you look at the parameters there, it just says add Titanic, who is the director, the year, and then the genre. So it comes with its own set of parameters to insert the data. Now what we will do, we will use our own customization that we have done on our project, and then run this method add Titanic to the database. What you see is, instead of using the old pre-trained model, Q uses the one that you are using in your code base, so which is the title, the year, the plot, and the rating. So the customization capability helps us to customize how Q generates recommendations based on our organization's guardrails, standards, guidelines, etc. Okay. Now, the other thing is, you want to continue on the Java side? So basically, this is just a high-level view of, Mani, come over till you come. So if you look at this, these are all various versions of Java, starting from 7, 11, 17, and current 21, and the adoption of Java over the last few years. And if you look at it, the green one at the top that you see, that is slowly reducing, which means that people are moving away from the older version of Java to the newer version of Java, right? Yep. Go ahead.
So one of the problems, sorry, one of the problems, is it, hello? Is it, okay. I don't think the mic is coming. Okay, fine. So couple of points. One is on the customization piece. So a lot of, I think, companies that you work for will already have a lot of existing code base. So I think especially the more, like your system integrators or even banks and other kinds of companies, they want the recommendations to reflect your own standards and stuff like that. So their customization plays a very vital role, okay? The second point about Java, this can equally apply to .NET also, right? As you all know, .NET, I think, Just the .NET, the classic one has been deprecated, and a lot of newer code is actually using .NET Core. And similarly with Java, the JDK has progressed a lot. So currently, I think it's 21. Okay, I lost track some time back. But bottom line is, a lot of code has also been written using the older versions of Java. So we do provide a feature called transformation, which can help you to migrate a lot of your older code, which have been written in older Java to 17, right, or 11. So this can help to basically retire technical debt. So I think so that's what Q can help. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but all I can tell you is while this demo runs, it can help you to migrate older Java-based projects. It will not just migrate 1 or 2 files. It will try to actually find out if you're using a specific library that in Java 8, it will try to find out which is an equivalent library in the newer JDKs and make some suggestions. And obviously, it won't just go and upgrade your application. It will ask you permissions saying that these are the changes, and then wait for your confirmation, and then go and change, basically upgrade the application, right? Now, you have seen a lot of demos, right, today. I think, so basically our thing was, whatever phase of your software career you are in, right? Whether you're just starting, you just need to create a user guide, or you're an architect where you need to create, things like architecture diagrams, or you're a QA or an ops person, Generative AI can play a role in all of these aspects, right? The last thing that I wanted to show you was, I think a lot of us, so whatever we have seen, I just want to reiterate, the way Q works is, it's a plugin that you install within your IDE, okay? So if you're using something like Visual Studio or VS Code or IntelliJ, so this works as a plugin that you install within your IDE, and you just need to create either a free account or a paid account. Both of them are fantastic, and you can use them and then start using it, right? So but that's one aspect. The second aspect of it is a lot of us in the software field, we also use a lot of command line tools, right? I think, at least me, I'm finding it very difficult to remember the exact parameters that I need to give for a lot of these command line tools, right? I think whether it's a Git or MySQL or Java or whatever, right? One of the things I think that, because we ourselves are facing a lot of fatigue, mental fatigue, because we just can't cope up with, the changes that are happening there. So Q also has a cousin. It's called like a Q chat, which you can invoke from the command line. If you can see it here, I called something called Q chat from my command line. It works on Windows and Mac also. You just invoke Q chat, and then I give basically some kind of a question, and it gives me the equivalent command line that I can invoke, right? In this case, I wanted to find some EC2 instance types in AWS. Need not be related to AWS. For example, this morning I wanted to check, some way of getting the weather in Bangalore, right? I wanted to call, are there some API tools or some endpoints that I can call? It just gave me some sample endpoints, which I could use it to get the weather, right? So all I'm trying to say is, Q developer can work both in the IDE, within the AWS console, as well as from the command line. So it has various avatars, and it can help you, it can meet you where you need it best, right? So in conclusion, I think there are a lot of features here, and I think it's not like it's like something new. It's already there, out there, it's established. And I think the biggest advantage to me personally using Q, I've been doing coding for a long time, is it reduces this thing called context switching, right? I think typically what we do when we have a problem, we actually go to either a search, or we go to some forums like Stack Overflow or something and try to find code, or even GitHub for that matter, right? We go and find code, do stuff. We're not very sure it works, what are the vulnerabilities there and things like that. So using a generative UI tool like Q, you can reduce the context switching, right? And remember that statistic about spending just an hour every day? I think what we feel is by using these tools, you can reduce the context switching, focus on coding. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not like some very famous person, I'm not going to name him. He said you got to work for some X number of hours per week, right? But at least the 1 hour should go to something more, right? So that's the whole thing. And be productive. And the second point is, the roles are now all in flux, right? I mean, we cannot just say, I'm a developer, I'm not going to concentrate on SRE stuff. I'm a developer, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to do testing and stuff like that. It's because the roles are reversed, because I think people are trying to, I think, multitask and also be more multi-skilled, right? And with these kind of tools, you can safely do a lot of these things by yourself, right? So that is it. So in terms of what next, as I said, Q comes with a free developer ID, builder ID. You can go and create it and start using it. It's pretty generous. You don't have to, I guess, pay anything to AWS if you don't want to. You can start using it. It's a plugin. So currently we support Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and IntelliJ. I think support for other IDs is coming very soon, right? So some of the points are, yes, ma'am. I think just 2 more minutes and I will open for questions. Anything else? Yeah, a couple of QR codes, if you can, please click it. This is to create a free builder ID. And the second one is to actually use developer queue, the plugin and stuff like that, right? Yes, I will then open a quiz. I think I request, the next one is over a quiz. I would request you to take the quiz because I think I'm told that there are prizes for the first 3 people. And I think there's an added benefit if you complete the quiz, whether it's right or wrong, you can also get some, I think, voucher, 50% off for taking one of our AWS AI practitioner exam, very popular one. I think that's also a side benefit, right? So I hope you have taken this. So this is the quiz. Yeah, you can do it and then I'll open for questions. Ma'am, you can ask, can we pass the mic? Chandra, you want to come here?
Hello.
Yeah, who's it? I can't see. Here, is it? Okay, the question was how much does the enterprise license cost? So we are not salespeople, but I think it's $19 per user per month. But as I said, the benefit is primarily the limits are more in the sense that how much code generates and stuff like that. But it's $19 per user per month. You get a professional edition. I think it's just that the limits you get more.
So the biggest difference between the Builder ID, which is free, and the Pro subscription is on the quotas that you get. Say, for example, if you want to use the agents, the /dev, you have a number of limits. Similarly, if you want to use the /transform, you have fewer number of lines of code that you can use in a Builder ID, whereas the subscription, the limits are higher. And also in the subscription model, from a Q transform perspective, the total number of lines are pooled by the whole organization. So the limits will vary. So that is the whole difference. But
so I think, yeah.
To summarize the answer to your question, it's $90 per month per license.
But I mean, go ahead with a free ID. I think that's more than enough. Unless you're an enterprise, maybe you won't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll repeat it.
Excuse me.
So you want to answer it?
So the question is, when we want to apply the transformation, we want to basically want to have a baseline on creating the unit test and then apply the transformation. Sorry? Yeah. So when you run Q code transformation, there are 2 options for you to, when you trigger the transformation. One is, it can take your existing test cases and run it as part of the transformation, or you can switch off your unit tests. So the way transformation works is, it takes your code, uploads it securely to an AWS environment, and then runs the transformation using generative AI, iteratively, resolving or remediating all compilation issues. And at the end of the whole process of the iteration cycle, it provides you a code which can be either completely transformed or it could be a partial transformation. So you can then run your, again, as part of the code transformation, your tests are also upgraded. So you can run your tests at the end to see whether we are meeting the same standards as it was before.
So I think that lady, I'll just come back to you. She was waiting for a long time, I think. How you maintain the security?
So this is about the data privacy and security, right? So when we are, okay, there are two fronts that I would answer this question. Number one, if you are using a free tier, right? So whatever that you try to do in Q, that data would be used by AWS by default. But you have an option to disable that, to say don't use my data. So that's on the free tier. On the professional tier, you are given a license and it's for you. AWS and Amazon will not use that data for training the model or use that telemetry information for training the model as such. So whatever code you use or the chat, the prompts that you deliver, all of them are going to be in a secure environment for you, and we will not use that information. That's how it works. All right. So the usage is based on how you are, or which feature of Q you are using. If you are using a chat, if you are using transform, if you are using things like the /dev, the agents. So all these metrics are available, and you will be able to see that on the CloudWatch console. So Q has a dashboard by default. Okay. So Q has a dashboard by default that helps you to track your usage metrics. Yep.
Yep.
You can ask the question. That's easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How is it beneficial over? Okay. Okay. So there are two questions. Number one is, if I am using a project which is on Java, excuse me, it's not audible. Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is, we are using a Spring-based Java project, and can Q upgrade that? Yes. So the transform feature is primarily aimed at taking a Java project, either it is on version 8 or 11, and upgrade that to Java 17. So in the process, what we do is take the project, upgrade it so that with the bare minimal changes that are required on the project, we are able to run it on Java 17. Okay. So to your second question about how is it different from Copilot, is that correct? Okay.
Do you want to go there, or
Huh?
do you want to go there? Or
Go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm saying as a company, we don't comment on other products, but suffice it to say, we feel that if you are developing for AWS, this product is the best. Okay. Because I think as I said, we've been trained on a lot of Amazon's own code, and a lot of things like AWS APIs and things like that are pretty good. But there are a few features, like for example, the security scan and
Transform.
What is it?
The transform.
The transform are pretty unique to us. But as you all know, we have our biggest annual tech conference next 2 weeks. So I'm sure Q again will develop new features. But we are not saying we are the best, but at the same time we are not saying we are the worst. We are good in what we are. And what are products? I mean, there's room for everyone.
I have one question. So
I think this lady has been there for some time, yeah.
So keep it.
Okay. So at this point, Q transform works only on Java. Is it a Java project? JavaScript. So we don't support JavaScript as of now, but there is a limited preview on .NET that is running with a lot of customers. So currently we only support Java and .NET for transformation. Maybe in future we might support other.
So, but to answer that question, so the transform directly does not support an upgrade of JavaScript or other programming languages today. You can use the other features of Q, which is the online chat, right, that you have, or the /dev feature, and then use that to upgrade your code. So there is a ability for you to select code and then say, explain this code, right? So some of the experiments that we have done is, for example, take an stored procedure written in Oracle and then try to convert that and say, rewrite this code in Python. So that's a two-step process, right? You understand what is written in the stored procedure first, and then create an API in Java or Python. So though direct upgrade is not there, you can do that iteratively. Take that, understand that, try to use Q to convert that in other programming language constructs. So that is possible.
Out of the box, without using transform, you can do like file by file kind of a thing using Q. Yeah. Whereas this one, the transform feature is for taking the whole project and doing it, right? But Q can still help you by doing like a package by package kind of a thing. You can do it, yeah. Right? So in the interest of time, we will take questions, but we want to announce the quiz. We'll be here for the next whatever time it takes to answer your questions. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much for such an insightful session you have given, Mani and Shivaraman. So we had a quiz competition just now, and I hope everyone have scanned this one, isn't? So we have the winners. So the winners' names are with me. So the first is Sonali Singh.
Wow. First row.
Please clap for Sonali Singh. She got 10 out of 10.
Can you come to the stage?
Can you please come, sir, and please...
Sandra.
Could you please take a photo?
A picture on the stage. No. Thank you.
Please clap, everyone. Thank you so much, Sonali.
Thank you.
So the second winner is Nandita. Nandita, please come to the stage.
Oh.
Nandita Mendi.
Congrats.
And our third winner is Shipra Gautam. Please come to the stage, Shipra. Nandita Mendi. Okay. She is... Which Nandita came just now? Oh, I just announced Nandita Mendi. No worries, you can. Please come, Nandita, over on stage. Please come.
Thank you.
Please clap, everyone, for Nandita Mendi.
Thanks.
She's the second one. And the third one is Shipra Gautam. Please come to the stage. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shipra. So I hope you all have got a great knowledge about the AWS session. I think so you are going to implement in your future. And we are very much, thank you for joining us to the session. Thank you so much, Mani. Thank you so much, Shivaraman, for giving such insightful knowledge to everyone.
Yep. So Mani and I will be here. If you have any further questions,
yes,
perhaps we'll take that.
If you have any question, please
Thank
stay
you.
here and you can ask leaders. And you can join our community. It's aspireforher.com. If you are interested in any other opportunities related to job or any other, you want to develop your skills, please join aspireforher.com. It's our website.
Rani R. Nidhi is a software engineer with expertise in ML and artificial intelligence and holds a specialization in machine learning and data science. Nidhi, please welcome on stage.
Hello, am I audible? Okay, mic check, hello. We good? Okay. All right, so unlike most of the session, I think this is going to be slightly more technical. So, yes, bear with me. Before I start, I would like to get a feel of how the room is. All the students, can I have a hand? People who are still in college? No one? Okay, amazing. All the people with less than 5 years of experience here? Okay, people with more than that? Okay, amazing. How many of you are in data science or ML or somehow related to the field? Yeah? Okay, amazing. Thank you. I feel like I'd rather know who I'm talking to before I start talking, so that makes sense? Right. So I would want this to be a little bit more interactive. This was supposed to be a classroom session, so I'm going to treat it as a classroom session, okay? So how many of you believe in astrology? We're all women of science here. No astrology people? Okay, amazing. Even I am not. But I'm sure at some point of time you would have seen someone, heard someone go to an astrologer and how they work, right? They will look at your palm or look at your face or look at your kundli and tell you what kind of a person you are, right? You're shy, you're talkative, maybe you're bold in life and things like that, right? Now that is pretty much not backed by any kind of science. Handwriting analysis or graphology is something very similar. So by looking at your handwriting, I'm sure if you have ever taken a psychology class, by looking at your handwriting, you can tell what emotions the person is going through. If you ever have taken therapy or have gone to serious counseling, they will make you write things and draw things, not just to understand what you're thinking, but also to understand how you're writing it and why. So the pressure of your pen, the slant in your handwriting, the pressure with which you put the dot on top of an I, all of that together will talk a lot about your personality. I have this senior, my mentor Manjeet. He was supposed to be here with me for this presentation, but unfortunately he's not feeling very well. But he's gone through a year of training on how to analyze handwriting, and that's where this entire project's coming from. Also, I would also like to talk about why this project and how this project came to existence. Now, IBM does a lot of mentorship projects in collaboration with a lot of colleges. One similar college is IIIT Bangalore. We have been, we've published a lot of papers and we've worked on a number of projects with them. So the entire project is about taking different aspects of your day-to-day life and figuring out who you are, right? So handwriting is one part of that. The entire project also entails on speech recognition, emotion recognition, how you talk, how you walk, everything. So you do a complete recording of, or maybe a vlog of your life, you upload it, and they're going to do an analysis on who you are as a person, right? So that's the entire project. This is one small piece of that. And I think in a half-an-hour session, that's the maximum I can talk about. So we'll start with handwriting analysis. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to take this session on enhancing handwriting analysis with DenseNet 169. Anyone here who's worked with or heard of DenseNet 169 before? Yeah? Okay, so it's a convolution neural network, that's it. If you must have studied CNNs. It's one of the forms of CNN. It gets a lot of data from the previous layers, and then all the previous layers feed into the data for the next layer. So that is what DenseNet 169 is. Eventually, I'll talk about why we are using DenseNet 169 here. We also have an explainable AI over here. A lot of people question why did AI come up with this solution. So